Today we're going to learn how to create your flip-flop out of clay. If you notice, I already have my cube of clay here. I have some sticks, and if you'll notice that they say 1/2, that means they're 1/2 inch thick. And when you use any of my sticks, some of them have different numbers, you're going to want to make sure that you use them so that you could see the numbers facing up, because it's a different thickness if you roll it like that. So make sure you see the numbers up. You'll also be using a roller. This is no different than a roller that you would use in a bakery shop. The first thing that we want to do is roll a slab. And the slab is going to be used to press your foot into. So what I always suggest doing is take your roller, and you're going to want to actually pound down on top of your slab to flatten it out a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and do so. Once you have that flattened out quite a bit, you'll notice that it has flattened out a little bit. You can go ahead and start rolling. I would suggest you stand up while you're doing this. It makes it a lot easier. And you always want to make sure that your roller stays on top of the sticks. This allows it so that you're rolling a 1/2 inch slab evenly across the whole thing. If your stick moves and your roller starts dipping down, rather than resting on it, you're going to get a thinner slab. So you're going to keep rolling. And you'll notice that the slab is getting long because I'm only rolling in one direction. If I move the sticks and I start rolling in a different direction, it's going to widen my slab. But for this project, we need a nice long, thin slab so that we can press our foot into it. So you're going to keep rolling until the slab is completely flat. What you're going to notice is that it's no longer going to be expanding at all, and your roller is going to be hitting the slats or the sticks instead of the slab of clay. So once you're done, you can remove your sticks and you have your slab of clay. At this point, what you want to do is smooth out your slab, and you're going to take something called a rubber rib, and you are going to smooth out your slab. You're going to go in 4 different directions, from top to bottom, left to right, bottom to top, and right to left. You're going to do it on both the one side and the other side. Again, you're going to do the same thing. And what this does is it condenses all the molecules that are moving around inside of your clay. So it makes it so that if you bend or anything, your clay, it kind of condenses those molecules and makes it so that it does not crack. So it doesn't matter which side you use. You can use either side. And at this point, you're going to press your foot into the clay. Now, because I don't have my shoe off, we'll just kind of use my thumbs to create kind of a footprint here. Okay, it's not the best one. It's kind of a weird footprint, but we'll go with it. So what you want to do at this point is you want to take something called a needle tool. This is a needle tool, and you want to kind of draw out the shape of a flip-flop around your footprint. I would suggest giving yourself about a 1/2 inch around your foot, all right, to draw it. Now, I did not carve all the way through there. That way, if you make a mistake, you can kind of smooth it out, and you can, redraw it as you need to. Once you think that the shape of your flip-flop looks good, you're going to take your needle tool and you want to place it directly up and down. And you're going to press it all the way in until you feel it hit the board. So then, very lightly, you're going to go over top of the line that you drew. And you're not pressing so hard that you're bending the needle tool. You're just pressing down enough, straight down, that you can feel it kind of scrape along the surface of the board. We're going to keep going along this side. All right. And once you think you're done, you should be able to just pull off all of your extra. And what you're left with is your flip-flop. Now, if you feel like that's kind of too big, too small, you want to reshape it, you're more than welcome to sort of trim it as you need, and you can trim off any extra, okay? At this point, you're going to want to create some of the straps for your flip-flop. Now, there's a couple different straps. There's some that are just, you know, kind of this shape, but what we want to do is create something called a coil for your straps. And there's two different ways you can do it. One way is you can go ahead and use your slab to create sort of a flattened coil. Now, a coil is in essence, a rope of clay. So let's go ahead and make a flattened coil out of your slab. So I'm just going to use my stick as kind of a straight edge, almost like a guideline. And what you'll notice is that I end up with this flattened coil, all right? Most coils, when people talk about them, are actually round, but for this one, we'll just kind of go ahead and use this, all right? Now, this might be really thick to use for a strap, so if you want to do it, if you want to make it thinner, you can kind of pat it down a little bit. And if you'll notice, it's already making it a little thinner. And then you're also going to want to smooth it out. So this is when you're going to start using your sponge. This is a little damp right now. And you can go ahead and take that damp sponge and smooth out your slab coil. All right. And again, if that's too wide for what you want, you can go in and trim it up. And now you can end up with these two thinner ones, all right? Be careful not to get things too thin, because as it starts drying, it'll crack and break. But this is pretty good at the moment, okay? So now that you have your two slabs here, you can go ahead and start putting your straps on. But there is one more way that you can make a coil. So if you have clay here, you can kind of go ahead and you're going to create a rope of clay. Notice I'm twisting it around in my hand, and when you roll out a coil, you want to squeeze it into about the size that you're going to want it, as close as you can. So at this point, you're going to roll this coil. So I'm going to move some of this out of the way so that I can show you how to roll it. All right, so here you've got your coil. And when you roll your coil, right, that's to get it skinnier and a little more round. You're going to want to start in the middle and gently go out. Now, if you notice, I'm spreading my fingers as I go outward. So start in the middle, spread your fingers, and go outward. Now, if you only roll back and forth a little bit, you're going to start flattening your coil. So let's kind of do that on purpose. If I flatten it, you'll notice it starts to flatten. You're going to roll it up, and you're going to pat that down, and then you're going to keep trying to do that. Now, you're going to get to the point where the coil is almost too long for your table. You can move this around any way that you like, and I always try to focus on some of the thicker areas, and when I've got that even, I'll move over to this thicker area, and I'll start working on this area. Now, rolling coils is not easy for everyone. There's some days I can roll a really good coil, and other days it takes me a little longer. Now, once you have this really long coil, you can start cutting that coil down into the sizes that you need, okay? And if you want to flatten these like those, like the ones we made, you can again always just pat them down. But that's how you're going to be making coils. So let's move back to our flip-flop and the flattened coils we already made. Now, what you want to do is you want to figure out where your coils are going to attach to your flip-flop. Now we know that a normal strap goes right in between the toes here. So I would always kind of just put a little mark there so you know where you want that strap to attach. Most people, when they take their straps, for some reason they want to attach that strap over here, right behind where, you know, the first part of your foot is. But actually, if you notice the heel of your foot is about right here, it's always right when that heel starts to go in. That's usually where that flip-flop actually attaches, or the strap. Same with over here, same thing. So don't attach it too far up. Make sure that you're attaching it right where that heel begins, okay? So at this point, you're going to take your flip-flop, you're going to press that down just slightly, and then you're going to take it, and I always curve it around like this, and then I cut off my extra. Okay, and the cutoff doesn't have to be perfect. So at this point, I've got them both where I need them to be. Okay, and then you just make sure to save your straps because you're going to need the other one. In order to attach one piece of clay to another piece of clay, you actually need to do something called scoring and slipping. Scoring is roughing up the two areas that are going to attach together. Slip is actually just liquid clay, and I don't have any on me at the moment, but it's just clay with water added to it. So if you just want to take some slip, we'll pretend this is my slip, and you put it there, make sure it's roughed back up a little bit, and then you are going to attach your piece. And usually what I'll do is kind of move it back and forth until it sticks a little bit. Okay? At this point, you're going to need to officially attach your piece. That's almost acting as glue. When you attach your piece, you could take a tool such as this wooden modeling tool, and you are going to smooth down the extra parts of your clay. I usually try to dig into a little bit of the clay, a little bit of the clay strap, and pull it down. And don't forget that you need to get all sides of that clay and smooth it down. Okay? Now once you have that, you'll always want to pinch off a tiny bit of clay, such as this, and you're going to want to roll it. You can roll it in your fingers so it's a really tiny piece, thin piece of clay. Because you took some of the clay off of the strap and pulled it down, you need to then add a little bit more clay all the way around here. So again, doesn't need to be a whole lot. You're going to add this all the way around, kind of shove it in where you took clay from, and then you're going to smooth it out. Again, you can either use your finger to do all of this, or you can use one of the wooden modeling tools, such as the one I'm using right now. I tend to use the modeling tools. It's just a little bit easier to get into some of the smaller areas if you have to use this side or this side. So we're going to smooth that out. Now, initially it's going to look a little rough, and you're going to want to use your finger or a brush to finish smoothing it out. Some people wait until the very end of the attachments to smooth everything out, but if you want to smooth as you go, that's never a bad idea. All right? Now you're going to notice this is kind of flopping around over here on its own. A lot of times what people do is take some extra sponges. They cannot be completely dry, but they cannot be holding water either when you use them to support something like this. If it's too wet, something that's too wet that's sitting on the clay will actually break the clay down, and you'll notice your strap will separate about right here. All right, so if you want to get an extra one of these, if this isn't staying up on its own, you can use that to support it until it air dries. So now we're going to do the same thing down here. We're going to slip and score. We'll attach that. We'll smooth it in all the way around. We'll get ourselves a little coil of clay. We'll attach that all the way around. Smooth it out. We'll pretend I smoothed the whole rest of it. At this point, you're ready for the next strap. So what you're going to do, I usually overlap this a little bit and thin this part out because I don't need it to be quite so thick that's going over top of another area. So we'll thin that out. Same thing over here. Cut off your extra. And then we'll pretend that we already slipped and scored both of these areas. So at that point, you're going to smooth everything in. And again, you can use something to support it while you're doing it. And then you'll have your flip-flop. Now this isn't the best looking one, but you'll basically have your flip-flop. The other option, instead of doing straps like this, is for people who want to do straps that are, more the sports style. So for those straps, you're going to need to actually create another slab. So right now I don't have another slab made, but we'll just do kind of a quick one here. What I'm doing right now is kind of getting all this clay back together, all my scraps. So I know this isn't going to be perfect. All right, so here I have my slab, and at this point this slab should also already be smoothed with the blue rubber rib, and to me that's a little thick for a strap. So if you want to do something a little thinner, let's pretend I already did something a little thinner. If you want to do one a little thinner, that would be best. It'll attach a lot better. So here I've thinned it out just slightly, okay? So now you have your slab, and what you're gonna do is you wanna figure out where does a normal flip-flops like this attach, all right? And it usually attaches right over the main part of the foot. So you're gonna kind of trim off your extra, okay? And then you're going to slip and score. Same thing we did with the other thing, or the other straps. You're going to score, you'll slip, and you're going to completely smooth this side on. And you'll even need to get inside here and add in a tiny little coil of clay inside there as well to make sure that it sticks. So you'll take that tiny coil, you'll kind of put it in here, and you can use any of the tools available to sort of press that into the seams and smooth it out. Anytime you attach clay, you want to smooth it out so that you don't see where you even attached it. It shouldn't look like you attached any clay. All right? So that is how you make your flip-flop. When you are done with any of your scraps at the end of creating anything, you kind of ball them together, and you're going to create a cube of clay. So you always pound it down. So there you have your cube of clay, and this will go on the back counter so that I can put it away for the day and we can reuse it again another day.